Okay, today we're going to learn how to make a basic calendar. This is going to be super simple, very plain, but it's going to just be a jumping point because next video I'm going to show you how to dress it up a little bit. So you're going to start with your blank presentation, and we're just going to clear this out. For those of you that are newer to PowerPoint, I'm going to try and go slow and walk you through a little bit of that. It might be a little hard for the rest of you that might know PowerPoint well, but I'm going to do my best to make this work for everyone. So for those who don't know, this is a slide, and this is just where we're going to be starting off. We're not using slides, we're not doing a presentation, we're not doing slideshow, we're not doing any of that. We're just making printable. So really, for this project, we're only going to be using one slide, and we're going to change the shape of it to fit a piece of paper. So we're going to go up to this tab. This is my design tab. If you have a different version of PowerPoint than I do, I believe mine is 2016, then it might look a little different for you, but you should be able to follow along pretty well. I'm going to slide on over here. I'm going to click on my slide size, and we're going to custom slide size. If you see there's a drop down menu, you can go ahead and click on your letter paper that they have selected here. I'm not sure why, but these dimensions, even though they are the same dimensions I will be putting in, selecting the letter paper option ends up looking a little bit wonky for me, and I don't know why that is, but I always just put it in myself manually. So we're going to do a portrait orientation. So we're going to go ahead and 8.5 and height. Now obviously if you are from Europe or anything like that, you're going to want to do your A4 dimensions. But for those of you in the US, or A5, excuse me, for those of you in the US, we're just going to go with the 8.5 by 11. So we're starting off, this is a blank slate right here. This might look a little different than yours, mainly because of these lines here. These help me line all the things up that I'm going to put on my paper. In order for you to find this in your PowerPoint, because you might not already have these set up, you're going to go over to your view, and right here they have options. You can select a ruler. You can select grid lines, which was helpful for me when I first started out. I don't use them now, and we're not going to use them in my videos, but this might help you line things up and kind of go from there. That's up to you. I only ever use my guides. You don't have to have them if you feel like they're just kind of in the way and they kind of distract from what you're working on. Then don't use them, but I use them. They help me line everything up. So once you've selected whatever you want, those will stay on every time you pull up PowerPoint. If you don't want to use them, you just have to go back in and click them off. So now that you see how this is all set up, we're going to go back to home and we're going to get started. Now, to give you a heads up, this here is called the taskbar, I think it's called, toolbar. And you can have quick tabs up here. I use some of the same ones over and over again, so I have added them to my toolbar. They might be different than what you would have up here, so we're not going to use my toolbar. I'm going to show you how it would look to someone who is just starting off using PowerPoint. So we're only going to use these up here. So it's going to be a little bit of a handicap for me because I'm so used to these. But when you get to a point where you are using PowerPoint a little more often, you're going to find you're going to want some of these ones up here for yourself as well. And you can do that by just customizing your toolbar and just clicking on the things that you want up here. So for starters, we're going to go ahead and get our shapes going on. So we're going to do that by going to our Insert tab, and we're going to slide over here to our shapes. Now the shapes, these are all the shapes PowerPoint has. There's a lot, but there's not as many as you might want to use as you get more into this. And I can show you other ways of downloading shapes, but these are the basic ones, and I use these all the time. We're going to start off with our rectangle, And as you can see, I have a crosshair instead of a arrow. And this is just going to get you started on your shape. You're going to create your shape. So you're going to use your left, click on your left hand of your mouse and just drag it across your paper. As you can see, you can make it longer, wide, you can just totally play with the shape. And I want this to fill most of the page. So I'm just going to go with this. Doesn't have to be exact. You can see exactly how you want this to go depending on what your needs are for a calendar. For me, I pretty much just am going to use most of the page here. Now this is called a shape. As you can tell, it's this is more of a squarish rectangle now, but so I've selected this shape and I'm going to center it on this particular grid line here. And if you notice, as you move it across, it turns red when you've hit that center. Okay, so I don't want to center it horizontally because I actually want more space up here than I have down here. But I do want to center vertically on the page. So now that I've centered it on the page, I'm just going to leave it there, and I'm going to change my shape up now. So in order to change your shape, you need to select the shape you want to work on, and you can go up here and there's lots of options. Shape fill, right now it's blue. Obviously I'm not going to stick with blue. So there are two options you can go with. You can change it to white, or you can select no fill. You're like, well, that looks exactly the same. Well, if you were to look at or think of PowerPoint as having, well, this might be dating me a little bit, but if you're in school and you have those projectors and your teacher has all those little clear films that she uses, I know there's a word for it and it's not coming to me. She puts it on the projector and she writes on it, and it shows up on the top of on the wall or the blackboard or whatever. And then she can add another clear paper over top of that and just build layers. That's exactly what this is. So if you have a bunch of layers and you want, let's say, the outline of your shape on the top, but you want to see through the shape, then you would use a no fill. That's something that, I can show you a little more example wise later on, and maybe other videos. But for now, I'm trying to keep this basic. I'm sorry if I'm overwhelming you. There is a lot, but it's actually pretty simple when you get going. So let's just start with white. Let's make it super simple, okay? The outline is blue. I don't know why blue is their customary color, but it is. We don't want blue. We're going to go with black. Everything we're going to do is going to be black, okay? For now, for this particular project. So we're just going to make it black. So it's a real simple, if you can see, it's still a shape, okay? But it looks like it's just an outline right now. So while you have selected this particular shape, I want to show you one more thing. You can turn it into a text box by double clicking on it, which we aren't going to do, but just by single clicking on it. It gives you some options to edit this particular shape, okay? You can edit the shape, you can change the shape. You can change it into, let's do an arrow. You can change it to an arrow. You can change it to all kinds of different things. We're going to stick with the shape we had. So instead of going back and trying to find that shape and redoing it all, there's this clever little button that I use all the time, and it's your undo button, and you just click and it goes right back to what you're working on. I cannot tell you how many times I have screwed up something, I've messed something up, and that button has saved me from so much work. So I use that probably more than anything on here, and it's really handy. But anyways, you can do that. You can edit your shape. You can turn it into a text box. You can change the color, the shape outline, the shape effects. Not trying to overwhelm you, but this is just the options. We're not going to go into any of these options right now. So this is going to be where our days of the month are, okay? So there are a couple ways to fill this in. Obviously, there's going to be a bunch of different squares, like 35 squares in here that we've got to try and squeeze in. And the way that you can do that is to go back into your shapes, and you can create 35 of these and line them all up. And You can do that. That is one way. But another way that kind of does the same thing, but might be a little bit easier to work with, is to go back in here, and instead of adding the shape, the square or rectangle shape, we're going to work with lines, okay? So as you can see, I have my crosshairs, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to left click on the point I want to start and drag it to where I want to end and let go. And now I have a new shape. So I have this line here and all my options opened up here for me to work on this particular shape that is selected, which is the line. I'm going to go over here and I want to change the color. Since black was the last color I had, it's going to automatically be on the black. So I'm just going to click right on the color and it automatically changes. I don't have to go into here and select the black. I just click on the color that's showing. Okay, so I can take this shape and I can move it up and down. I can actually make it longer. I can do whatever I want to do with the shape at this point in time. Now I need to have 5 columns all the way across. So, and I can go back up here and redo that, select the shape again, pull it across. I can do all of those things, but a real simple technique is just copying and pasting what I already have. So you're going to hold down the control button, push the C button at the same time. That copies the selected item, the one that you already have clicked on, which is this line. And then I'm still holding this control button and I'm going to switch over to the V button. And that duplicates whatever it is I copied. Okay, so now I can just pull this down, kind of just add it wherever. It doesn't have to be perfect. I will show you how to line this up in a minute. And I'm going to, since I have already copied this line, or this line, I don't have to control C again. I can just go straight to control V. And so it'll just copy the last, it will duplicate the last thing I copied, which was this particular line. So I'm just going to keep doing that until I have enough for 5 columns. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, in order to make this line up evenly inside of this rectangle, then I have to do one more step before I can make these line up. So the next thing I have to do is I actually have to create another line to lay over top of my top and bottom areas that I want these to line up within. You might say, well, what in the world? Let me explain. I just copied this last line and I duplicated it and I'm dragging it down to where I want it end. I want the columns to end, and then I'm going to do that again to where I want it to start. Okay, so now I have a line here, 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 and one down here. You can't see this line, but it is there. As you can see, it has your guidelines here to shift and change this. But if I were to click on the actual rectangle, they would be all over the place. So that's how you know you actually have just the line. So I don't want to work on the rectangle, so I'm going to click off of it, and I'm going to go back to the line. Now what I want to do is select all the lines that are here. So I'm going to hold down the control button, and I'm going to click on all the lines. That's how I select them. Now, I'm going to go up to my Align tab up here, and they have options. You can take all of those selected items, you can align them all to the left, and they've got little illustrations that kind of show you what this tab does. You can align it to the center, to the right, etc., etc. But today, right now, for this particular part of the project, we are going to distribute it. You can distribute it horizontally, which would align it this way, or we're going to distribute it vertically, which will align it this way. So we're going to distribute it vertically, and you see how it all shifts down. And now you have identical columns. Okay, super easy. I know it seemed a little technical, but it actually is pretty easy to do. So we're going to go back up to Insert. We're going to grab another shape, grab the line, and this time we're going to start at the top and pull it all the way down. Now, as you can tell, this kind of swivels. You can kind of leave it wherever you want it to go, but obviously we want it completely vertical. All right. So now it opens up. You can change up the shape. We just want to switch the color. That's all we want to do. And now I'm going to copy and paste, and we have to do this several times to make 7 columns, and we need these to be kind of skinny. So we're going to just move this down. Again, they do not have to be perfect. We're going to line it up the exact same way we did the other ones. So I am just copying and pasting each line as I move it, so that way I don't have to grab it from all the way over here and copying it from the same part. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 columns. That's how many we want. Now remember, we want a line from where we want to basically show the parameters of where we want this lined up at. So I'm going to copy one more line, or duplicate one more line. We're going to put it on the end of this rectangle, and we're going to do it from this rectangle, or this side as well. So now we have a line here and here to be our border of where we want this lined up within. So I've already selected this line. I'm going to hold the control button down, and I'm going to select all the lines inside that are vertical. Okay, so now I'm going to go back up to the Align tab, and I'm going to this time distribute it horizontally. And now they've all shifted over, and now they match up perfectly. Okay, so you see how easy that is. Now I do not want, I have these extra lines that are kind of flush with this design, this rectangle, and I don't need them anymore. Now that I've lined everything up, they're useless and I can get rid of them. So I'm going to, because you don't want them hanging around messing up later on because you're trying to select this particular square and you can't because there's a line in the way. So it's just easier to get rid of them once you're done with them. Now I have this all set up. This is completely formatted the way I want it to be formatted. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you, if I were to try, let's say, I'm going to show you, if I were to try to make this smaller, let's say, well, I can change the shape of the rectangle, but then now I've got to shift everything inside of it, and that is going to be impossible. So an easy way to do this is to Control A, selects everything on the page, okay? Another way to do it is the left click your arrow and drag it across and select everything inside. So once everything is selected, you're going to go up to Arrange, and you're going to go and select Group. And now this is one total shape. It is grouped into one shape that you can now shift in any way that you want. Okay? So again, we want it to be pretty much full of the page. I'm going to make sure I've centered it. So now it's ready to go, this particular shape. So we have our boxes, but now we need to, we can, if you want to leave it just like this and then just write in 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever, you can. I kind of like it looking a little bit more professional, so I like to add in, sorry, we're going to go to Insert. So I'm going to go up to my shapes, click on the rectangle, and I can create it right there. Okay, so it's already has a blue fill, so we're going to go up, we're going to change it to white, and we're going to outline it back to black. Okay, so I can do that all the way across, and I'm going to select the shape I want, Control C, copies it, V adds the it duplicates the shape. Now you can see I have some red lines going on up here, and this is really awesome because this helps you line up whatever you're working on. So this is something that has been super helpful to me, and it's kind of, you just have to learn a little bit how to decipher them. They're pretty good. Now right now you can see I've lined it up exactly with how it looks with the other one. So I'm good. I'm just going to create another one, and we're going to just kind of bring it, I can kind of eyeball it now. I don't always have to use the guidelines. One thing you can see, I'm jumping ahead of myself, but I just want you to kind of see, this is a thicker line right here. So in order to make that perfectly the same width as what you already have, you're just going to use your arrow key and just walk it over a little bit, and now it's the same. It's right on top of the other line. Okay, what it was right next to the line, so I just made it a thicker line. So I want it to go right over top of the one I'm already had. So Control C, then V, just bring this over. I'm going to Control V, CV, bring this over. And I know I need to walk those over a little bit more, and we'll do that here in a second. I'm just getting them where they need to go. Okay. So, as I said before, you can just use your arrow keys to kind of walk them over to where they look exactly like they're supposed to. That's what I love about this. It just makes it super easy. Okay, so this is exactly how I want the rest of these to look. So instead of doing that with every single one, we're going to group these as well. So I'm going to hold the control button down while I select the shapes I want to group. I'm going to go up to Align. Oh, sorry, not Align. Group. Well, see, these shift sometimes. These change where everything is. That's why I keep everything down here that I use all the time. But it has it here, so you don't have to go somewhere else to find that. If that made any sense. So then now I have this all one shape. So now I can Control, then V, and drag this down, kind of walk it over. And if you noticed, okay, I brought it down and some of them kind of shifted a little bit. I have no idea why it does that. It's ridiculous because these are perfect and these lines are exactly the same. So I don't know. So what I do is when it looks like this is you can actually go in while you have this group together and adjust ones that you already have inside here. And so I'm just going to move these over, the ones that are a little wonky. Okay, so now they look fine. So I'm going to select this shape again, Control V, drag it down. And see, look, these look good. So I don't know why the other ones didn't. So we're just going to stick with the shape then, or this grouping here. Move that over. See, now these ones got a little wonky. Just got to kind of keep an eye on it. It's really not that big of a deal. Okay. Alrighty. Oh. So select my shape again and just drag it down one more time. Alright, now these look good. Okay, so now it looks more like a calendar. This looks great. So then you can go up here. You can leave this blank if you want, so you can just write it across whatever month you're working on. I like to make it look a little more professional, so I'm going to, you can do an actual line here to give you a place to write it in. I don't like to use the line. I actually, I prefer to just use text for it. So I'm sorry, I should show you what I did here, and I just jumped right to it. So I like to just write out the month I'm going to use. So you're going to go to Insert, you're going to slide over to Text Box, and you're going to select it, and you have your pointer has changed. So you're going to just left click wherever you wanted to start, just drag it down. It doesn't have to be perfect. We're going to line it up however we want. And now you're ready to type. So let's just use May. It's much short. Okay. So I'm going to select the text box and I'm going to shift up here, and this is where I'm going to edit it a little bit. I'm going to center my word, and then I'm going to go over here. If this drop down menu shows you what you can, where you want it to change the font size, but I actually just use this and just see the arrows pointing up, this one pointing down, so you can go back and forth between it. I just use this. It's just a little easier and less clicking through I have to do. So now I've kind of centered that. As you can see, you can just kind of bring it to where the line turns red. It's centered. I can change the font if I want. I'm just going to leave it like it is. I can change the color, but we're sticking with black. So you can do everything, bold, italicize. There's a ton actually you can do with fonts. I will do a different video to walk you through all the cool things you can do with fonts, but today we're just sticking with basic. So now it's done. You have a basic calendar. This is super easy to do. Anybody can do this. It is a little I kind of jumped you right into something that's a little more involved because you are lining things up, you're creating a bunch of shapes, but I try to keep it as basic as possible. I hope I made a lot of sense. If there's any questions you have about this particular project, please write it in the comments. Let me explain something in more detail, and I'd be happy to do that for you. The next video that we're going to do, we'll talk about how to make this look prettier, a little more customized to what you would prefer it to look like. Some people actually prefer black and white. It saves on printing. There's lots of different reasons for it. But for those that want to make this, dress it up a little bit, I'm going to show you how to in another video. But before I go, there is something super important that you must know. And that is you have to save your project. So let's say that you do want to change this up later on. You have to save this project, because once you click out of this, if you do not save it, it's gone forever. I learned that a very, very hard way. It was very painful. And so easy, you just go up to File. You're just going to go save as, whatever you want to do. You go to Browse. It shows you all the different places you can save it. If it's a project you're working on right at that moment, I like to keep mine on my desktop. If not, I have tons of folders that I put everything in. You're just going to name it, whatever you're working on, and make sure that it's saved as a PowerPoint presentation. This automatically saves as a PowerPoint presentation. So you just save it, and then it's ready to work on whenever you want to go back to it. So if you do want to save it as a PDF, you can. You just go back into the file and then save it as again. You can print straight from PowerPoint. You can export it, show it to someone else. You can do all kinds of things. But make sure, first and foremost, that you save your PowerPoint presentation first. Even if you feel you might not need it again, just save it. It'll save you so much more work later on if you decide you want to work on it a little bit more. All right, we're going to jump right into the next video and show you how to make this a little more dressed up.